Hey there, my name is Anthony Romano, and in this video I'm going to explain to you why keto isn't as complicated as you might think that it is. So this video is inspired by a conversation I had today with a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a while. And basically this friend of mine said that they had done keto in the past and they enjoyed it, but they found that it was too much of a hassle to keep up with because they were always trying to hit ratios of fat and protein, and they didn't feel there was as much freedom despite enjoying the feeling of the diet, because they would be afraid to go to restaurants and order a bowl of chicken wings because it would have protein and basically no fat source. So this video is basically going to dispel all the myths about keto and only tell you the most important things. So I have a video that recently came out on the 2 biggest keto myths, which are basically that you need to have shitloads of fat with everything and that you can't overdo protein. And I explain it in very high detail in that video. But this video is going to tell you not only those things, but the only premises that you need to grab onto to make keto work, to make it simple. This is simple keto. This is what I want to preach to people because it can be very easy. So to make things simple, there's only one requirement you need, which you probably heard me say many times, is that you only need to restrict carbohydrates. That is the only requirement to be in ketosis. And what I always say to people is this little analogy, is that think about if you didn't eat anything for 3 days. You're technically not eating any carbohydrates if you're not eating anything. And this will also cause your body to be in ketosis. And this is why people who fast end up in very deep ketosis. The only requirement to enter ketosis is not consuming carbs. So from there, whether you're eating food or not, if there's no carbs in your diet, you're going to be in ketosis. From there, increasing your fats is going to deepen ketosis. However, if you're eating the wrong kind of carb sources that keep your body in a carb metabolism rather than keeping your body in ketosis, which is the fat metabolism, then from there, increasing your fats isn't going to do anything for you, and it might even make you gain weight if you're already in a carb metabolism and increasing your calories by too much. So that is rambling off of the myth that I explain one half of in the other video. But for this context, with the protein side of things, protein isn't going to kick you out of ketosis, but it can dampen ketosis depending on the source that you get it from. So whereas with fats, you can basically eat endless amounts and it's going to deepen your ketosis if you eat more. However, those ketones are going to be coming from your food rather than your body. Protein will only dampen ketosis if you're picking very high insulinogenic protein sources. So what does that mean? That means protein sources that have a very high insulin response. So the whole myth about protein kicking you out of ketosis comes from the fact that protein stimulates your insulin response more than fat does. The highest insulin response you're going to have is from carbs, but protein, depending on which source, can stimulate your insulin. So if you eat a chicken breast, it's just pure protein, but it doesn't have as high of a insulin spike as whey protein, for example. Whey protein is actually one of the highest insulinogenic proteins, and it's really the only one that I tell people they have to worry about because the rest of them aren't really a problem. I mean, I had a bowl of chicken wings from a restaurant today when I was out with some friends, and even if it kicked me out of ketosis for about 20 minutes, which it's very unlikely to do if you're as adapted as I am, if you're fat adapted, you're probably not going to have a problem with this. Even if it did make my insulin rise a little bit, your insulin's going to rise every time you eat anything. So you're going to have a dampening on your ketosis regardless of any meal if you're getting all your macronutrients in. Unless your meal is just fat, you're going to have some insulin response, and even eating small amounts of fat will create some sort of small, minor insulin response. So that's the whole gist with the protein side of things. So the way to make this simple, the way to make keto as simple as it can be, is just focus on cutting out the carbs. Okay, from there, the only thing you have to look at when you're going to restaurants, when you're going to the grocery store, is just looking for hidden carbs. Just looking for sugar, simple sugar ingredients in sweetening of things, right? Fructose, dextrin, dextrose, maltodextrin, dextrose, glucose, sucrose, things like that. Seeing those words pop up in the back of products is more important than saying, oh, this has too much protein in it. That's not a problem. You're going to need to get your protein in anyways. the whole myth that you have to have low protein is just another way of optimizing high ketone production. High ketone production is only needed for people with medical conditions, and that is why most of the diets in the scientific community come from that, because they all came from the epileptic children study example that I always throw out. So basically, if you aren't familiar with that, children with epilepsy get cured by ketosis, and to maximize ketosis, you drop the protein, increase the fat. So to make things simple for you, and the simplest approach to keto is just focus on cutting out the carbs. From there, whatever foods you want to eat, it doesn't matter if you didn't get your chicken breast with a fat source. It doesn't matter if you had, all your carbs for the day from greens, vegetables, for example, but you didn't have them with fats, or you didn't have them with protein, or you only had your fats and you wasted that chance to throw in some protein there. You don't need to worry about any of that. You don't need to worry about a magic ratio. You can literally just play this by, hey, if you're counting your calories, record the food item you ordered from whatever location you're at, whatever place, whatever grocery store, and the macros are just something you're going to look at the end of the day. You're just going to look at your macros and say, oh, cool, I had 70% fat today. Oh, cool, I had 80% fat today. Oh, I was fine with 65% fat today. Whatever the macro ratio is just an indication of how deep you're in ketosis, okay? So you don't need to have higher ketones unless you have a condition, and protein will only slightly dampen your deepness of ketosis without kicking you out of it, okay? Depending on the source. Example, if you drank pounds of whey protein, I'm sure that would kick you out of ketosis for longer than half an hour, but you get the point. That's the mechanism I'm trying to get you to understand here. So this ties in heavily with one of my most recent videos, which is the 2 myths. However, this is just making keto simple. This is just understanding that keto is not as over-complicated as people want it to be. Most of the people will tell you you have to eat tons of fat. You have to eat low protein. You don't have to. This is what is just going to create very high ketones. For me, all the benefits I get are from being simply in ketosis. Some days I'm in deeper ketosis, some days I'm not. As long as you're not eating carbs, you will be in ketosis, and this is what you want. This is the sweet spot. And then from there, you can experiment with, oh yeah, I'll try some of that butter coffee today. I'll try throwing some of that MCT in my coffee to see how I feel with higher fats, right? That's when you can experiment, and it should be a freeing experience, okay? It should be feeling like a very unrestricted diet because of the fact that you're just focusing on one variable. Technically, that variable is restricting a large amount of food options, right? Because a lot of processed food options that we don't really need. But the point is, all you need to do is focus on one variable, which is cutting out carbs. From there, it's a secondary concern about your macro makeup. Just make sure you're getting enough protein and you're getting enough fat for energy. That's it. Same approach you would have on a carb-based diet. Anyways, leave a question in the comments. I'll get back to you. Click my free meal plan and training plan. Great options in there for people trying to get started with this. And you can also join my free keto transformation challenge, possibly win some prizes, including some ketones. Thanks for watching. My name is Anthony Romano. Peace.